Hey there, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, co-chair for Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign in 2020, and was also out across the country in 2016 for Senator Sanders. And you're now running again for Cleveland's 11th district in Ohio against now Congresswoman Shontel Brown. My first question, because I was out there over the dead of summer last year, that special election. And, honestly, I didn't really know what to expect because I felt a whole lot of Cleveland didn't even know there was an election going on
That
in
is
the
true.
in the beginning. So let's talk about the differences now, because obviously you lost by about 4,000 votes last time. Most people might not know this, that 5 to 8,000 Republicans voted for
That's
Shontel
right.
Brown. Tell me what feels different and what your campaign is doing different this time in a traditional primary on May 3rd.
We're running a field first campaign, Jordan. That is the number one difference between last time and this time, really analyzing the areas that we could have done, the areas where we could improve, and that was it. And we've been on the ground since the middle part of February. And in Cleveland, it's still snowing and it's still pretty cold, knocking doors. We have had over 100,000 voter contacts because of the deep work that we have been doing. The energy for us is palpable. That was not necessarily the case last time, as you laid out in the middle of the summer, people not knowing there was a special election happening. That's different. People do know. Although I will say, and I'm very disappointed because I'm a pro vote, people get out there to vote. We are seeing, and articles have pointed to the fact that this too is going to be a low voter turnout election, although we have a competitive gubernatorial race and other constitutional offices, as well as a competitive U.S. Senate race because Senator Rob Portman is not running again. I think it is a reflection of people being overwhelmed and feeling, feeling suffocated by what is happening in the economy with all of the inflation. And then when you couple that with the pandemic, although we might not be masking up as much as we used to, the pandemic is not done with us. We may be done with the pandemic, but it's not done with us.
Right. Last time, in addition to Democratic Majority for Israel spending millions of dollars to make you look anti-Semitic, in addition to billboards and TV ads suffocating, I literally couldn't drive around Cleveland without seeing these billboards attacking you for not bowing down in loyalty to Joe Biden 100% of the time. I find it interesting because Shontel Brown has been a congresswoman for about 5 minutes. She's not completely going along with exactly what President Biden's policy agenda is. In fact, she has basically been signing on with others to try and continue obstructing America re-entering the Iran nuclear deal.
That's exactly right, with 17 other of her colleagues there. So, yeah, she's not walking 100% lockstep. And it's ludicrous on its face. When people elect members of Congress, they elect members to do their bidding, not the bid. And most of the time, that bidding it will probably be in line with the administration. There will be times when it will not. And you got to stand up for your people. Now, when it comes to the Iran deal, hey, shame on her for not signing up, being in support of that. That was the signature, one of the signature foreign policies for then President Barack Obama. President Trump was wrong to get out of that agreement. I definitely applaud President Biden for working to get back into that agreement. We have to continue to work for peace all over the globe. And that agreement is one way of doing just that. But she didn't sign on to it. And not only is the Democratic Majority for Israel, they were in deep, as you know, spending almost $3 million combined with the super PACs between them, AIPAC, Third Way. They're back at it again, Jordan. And I want your viewers to know they just plopped down $2 million between those two. And I'm finding out Third Way is back in it again. So before all is said and done, we might be back at about $2.5 to $3 million in an effort to try to defeat me. And the effort to defeat me is bigger than me. I'm just a conduit, and I understand that very clearly. This is first and foremost about the movement, the progressive movement itself. And the powers that be, those who believe in the status quo, they'll do anything that they can to try to defeat that, try to defeat our movement. And I do want the voters of the greater Cleveland area to understand that no outside force should be able to come in here and tell us who is going to be our leader. The DMF IPAC is being funded by an oil baroness for example. So that might be explain why Ms. Brown has not signed on to the robust Green New Deal policies that are percolating through the United States House of Representatives at this time. And the cryptocurrency billionaire, he plopped down $1 million of his own. And not just here in this district, Jordan, he's doing it all over the country. So representative democracy itself, whether it's the 11th district here in Ohio or the 11th district in California, I'm just making this a broader example, those of us who believe that the people of their respective community should be able to make that decision, those of us who believe in fighting for democracy itself and not just the individual who you want to vote for, we should all feel the threat that has swirled upon us since Citizens United.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you, because I want to just clear the air on something. A lot of critics said, well, I'd vote for Nina, but she should have run Green Party, or she should have run independent, or this and that. My understanding is Green Party is not on the ballot anymore in Ohio.
No.
Obviously, I mean, you could skip the primary, I guess, and run as an independent, but you'd probably lose by 30 or 40 in that district. So what was the actual options for you to run in a primary and to win, I should say, in that district?
The one I'm taking now, Jordan, the one, and thank you. You have been masterful at explaining this to our other colleagues in the movement, that in certain districts, and this is one of them, that is not an option if we want to be competitive. We want to win. I'm not doing this just for practice here. I want to win because the progressive movement needs more leaders like myself who actually have the levers of power that can push our agenda. This is what this is about. This district is a solidly Democratic district. My county, Cuyahoga County itself, votes about 5 or 6 to 1 Democrat. So there is no way that an independent will not win. So the movement has some maturing to do. We got to play chess, not checkers. And so if people just want to run just to do it and say, hey, I ran, or do you want to run and win? And that may look differently in another part of the country. But for the 11th congressional district, it is solidly Democrat, and that's what people are going to vote for. They're going to have a choice between the Democrat and the Republican. But for all intents and purposes, whoever wins this primary on May 3rd will win the general election. So I am running to win and to further our progressive agenda in the halls of Congress. But that's not the only way to push the progressive agenda. We need activists and people who agitate to be on the front lines too. It is both of those things. And that's why I'm running, to complement what the movement is doing and the things that we're fighting for to change the material conditions of people in my district and in this country.
I'm glad you brought up the word agitate, because if we got to I'm not going to sugarcoat it. A lot of the progressives that activists, knocked on doors, made the calls for, donated to get in there, their version of agitating has been to write letters to President Biden, asking him kindly on student loan debt cancellation and climate, or getting meetings with his chief of staff as victories. But they have not chosen to agitate. In my view, whether you chalk it up to naivete or political threats that have been made, that you're going to get backbenched. You won't have these committee assignments, whatever it is. The squad, to a lesser degree, Bernie. What if you get elected? Because you mentioned winning. What should people expect? I mean, I know you pretty well. I don't really think you're going in there to kindly write letters. But for example, right now, student loan debt. Would people be able to expect you to go to publicly challenge the president to cancel student loan debt, to be out there with activists? We could go down the list, the climate protests, this and that. I think what people are looking for is not just progressives that share our policy vision, but actually have a strategy to fight and exert power once in Congress.
That's exactly right, Jordan. And I understand that and I feel that. And that's not to say that I am going to agree with every tactic that the movement agrees with. But I've already, by way of example, been out there for the cancellation of student debt. And I want to shout out in this moment, the Debt Collective. I was invited to be with them. It's probably been about 3 weeks ago now. We were in D.C. in front of the Education Department's building. And it was a beautiful sight to see activists from all over the country stand in solidarity with one another to say to the president, send a message to the Secretary of Education that this debt can be canceled. So yeah, I was there. See, I haven't stopped, Jordan. That's really what I want this movement to understand. that even though I am running for this seat, I didn't win it last time, but that didn't stop me. I've been side by side with Sherwin-Williams workers right here in my district, side by side with the Starbucks workers in my district, and have been requested to go all over the country. I went to New York too to stand side by side with those Starbucks workers, with the Amazon workers. Bessemer got this party started. I'm so proud and happy, and I know that Status Coup, you all have been out there from the beginning. A Christian Smalls doing the daggone thing under some intense situations when people counted him out. He was doing the work. I too have been and continue to do the work, whether I have that extra special title or not, because I believe in the mission to help change material conditions of the people of this great nation, starting with my district. But I do understand this, Jordan, that what happens over there happens over here. That's why I went to Bessemer, Alabama. What happens over there happens over here. I was invited even after the special election last year by some of our sisters and brothers over in the UK. Why? Because they see my fight. That is what it is. So I'm not going to change that. Yes, when the president needs to be challenged, I am going to challenge. When there are things that we agree on, I'm going to be right there too. For example, the Iran nuclear deal that the current congressperson decided, she's not for it, with 17 other Democrats. One of the signature foreign policies of President Barack Obama. President Trump did the wrong thing by getting us out of the deal. Glad to see President Biden fighting to get us back in the deal. That is something that he and I would agree on, and that I would be there. So it's not this, we're going to be fighting all the time, but when it comes down to making sure that there is the sufficient fight for what will help my constituents and other people in this country, whether it's canceling student debt. I'm not changing on Medicare for all. I'm not the one that just signed on to it conveniently. Check my record. I've been out there fighting for it, confronting power for it, and I'm going to continue to do that. Jordan, yeah.
And one specific thing, I have been really just dumbfounded. I asked Congressman Ro Khanna when he came on during this whole standoff with President Manchin, why was the progressives not out there on his doorstep? Bernie wrote an op-ed in his hometown paper, which kind of got under his skin, but there were no, protests, rallies. That I know the people of West Virginia, you'd have thousands of people showing up. Those are the kind of things when the moment matters. Should people trust? Because I've seen you on the campaign trail. I've seen you speaking to the Verizon workers and the Nissan workers in Mississippi. I mean, you've been out there when it counts. Can people expect that a Congressman Turner would, in those moments, go against Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, even more progressive folks if they're not being aggressive enough in terms of obstruction?
Yeah, I'm doing it now. And every opportunity that I've had to interview with people like you and others in independent media and also the mainstream media, I have said so. I am on the record of saying months ago that I thought that the president should use the bully pulpit, since those two want to stand in the way of his agenda. And I'm talking about the Build Back Better portion, the infrastructure portion. Oh, that's great. That is great. We needed both of those things to happen at the same time. And I wanted to see the president use the bully pulpit because he already invited, those senators. He's been Senator Manchin, for example, went to the White House and was invited to be with the president in Delaware. He talked to Senator Sinema, all of them. They got wined and dined. Once he tried the diplomatic approach, and that's not moving the needle, then in my opinion, it was time for the president to use that bully pulpit that he has. And I said, gas up the jet, go to West Virginia, go to Arizona, let him know who's standing in the way of his agenda. That is what you can do to rally the people on your side, to put pressure on those elected officials that are not pushing the agenda that is going to be necessary to help the people. And we know that it was watered down over time, and we can't even get Democrats to do the bare minimum. So I am going to continue to do what I've done. I'm sure I'm going to learn some other ways of doing things too. But being out there among the people when it, like you said, when it counts is very important to me. That is how you move it. Everything is not going to necessarily move in a straight line in the Congress. And I mean, in both houses. But what people like me can do, because we have an entire movement by our side, is to activate that movement, to make the demand. That is how great change happens. It rarely does it happen because politicians, got a clue and they do it on their own. it is the confluence of the outside pressure combined with those who are working towards that people-powered agenda, I will call it, affordability agenda, whatever you want to call it, the agenda that helps people live a better life. You need inside people, and you also need the outside people. And when things are not happening right on the inside, we need the people on the inside to come on out and let the people on the outside know, and invite those people to use their voice to help push an agenda that will change material conditions. That is not going to change, Jordan. I've been doing that, and I will continue to do that.
You got to ask. Progressive Caucus, led by Pramila Jayapal, endorsed Congresswoman Brown. I've heard different things, that it's in their charter that they have to endorse the incumbent. I don't know about that, but I wanted to ask you, because obviously that encompasses, the squad, Ro Khanna, Jayapal. Obviously, we don't know what each person who they would or wouldn't endorse, but that honestly, to folks in the progressive movement, seems like quite the betrayal.
And the movement made their voices known on that. And I want to thank the movement for standing up. The most important endorsements that I'm getting from progressive types are coming from my district. I have the endorsement of the Cuyahoga County Progressive Caucus, the Stonewall Dems, DFA, Democratic, or DSA, I should say, Democratic Socialists of America, the Cleveland chapter, has endorsed me. I have Black Lives Matter endorsement, Working Families Party endorsement, Ohio, Our Revolution, DFA, Democratic, DFA, because there's DSA and DFA. So I have many local endorsements, Sunrise Movement. I'm now, Jordan, you're making me name some, and I know I done left some folks out. The bottom line is that the endorsements that count on the ground from the progressive movement have endorsed me. And there are progressive chair people from all over the country who came together for the very first time and endorsed a candidate. They never did that before. So I'm talking about California, Utah, Iowa, Nevada, you name it. And that is a beautiful thing too. So sometimes out of controversy can come beautiful things. And I hope that those progressive chairs from all over the country who signed a letter saying that Nina Turner is the true progressive, I hope that they stay together and be in the ready to come out and help other progressives across the country, because what they have to say about who's progressive, who's really progressive, ought to matter. And I'm really honored to have their endorsement too.
On Cleveland in particular, it is one of the poorest big cities in America. I've been there. It's the same song. You got a nice downtown that's been gentrified, and a lot of the rest of the city have been left to rot. Can you kind of talk about, for people that don't know, because they might know you nationally, what did you do as an Ohio State senator, a local Cuyahoga County politician? What were your accomplishments there in helping that poverty? Because I looked at Shontel Brown's record in Cuyahoga County and her 5 minutes in Congress. I don't really see much there.
Yeah, I was on the Cleveland City Council and also an Ohio State senator. And they're, fighting for Cleveland's children, fighting to have levies passed, for example, which is a really big deal in a city that has such poverty. We were not, as poor then as we are now. So I'm sorry to see us. It pains me to see us go in the opposite direction. And one of the reasons why I am running is to help get us back and even past where we were, but on the ground, not just voting the right way, Jordan, but out there fighting, knocking doors to help pass a levy so that Cleveland's children would not suffer. At a period of time, we hadn't passed the levy in like 15 years. The pressure was on. I didn't want to see teachers get laid off. I wanted to see Cleveland's children have what they needed. And to get that, had to convince a city that is suffering under the weight of poverty to understand that investing more of our property taxes to help our children be able to live out their greatest greatness is, in fact, the right thing to do. Fighting for the House of Labor, not just voting the right way. I know you remember Senate Bill 5, for example, when the Republicans railed through a bill to take away collective bargaining rights of certain unions in this state. Not only did I vote the right way on the floor of the Senate, I got out in the streets, because it was important to convince voters. We have the power of referenda in the state of Ohio. Just because we put something on the ballot does not mean that the majority of the Ohioans were going to go for it, because the majority of Ohioans are not in the union. So we had to convince our non-labor sisters and brothers that when unions are strong, it increases their wages, make their work conditions and benefits better too. And we did. And by over 60%, the people of the great state of Ohio overturned what the Republican-led and controlled legislature did. That is one of the major differences between my opponent and I. I'm not delusional about just voting on the floor of anybody, whether it was the city council or the Ohio Senate or whether it's the United States Congress. You got to get out into the streets with the people and be by their side when it counts. So from women's reproductive health to education, small businesses, when it counted, I was there and I continue to be there, Jordan. I've never stopped. I really have been going since 2014. I ran for Secretary of State in 2014, knowing that I was going against a juggernaut in the sense that I was running against an entrenched Republican that was an incumbent. Every Democrat, 2014 was a hard year for Democrats, not just in the state of Ohio, but I made that sacrifice and did not run in my last term in the Ohio Senate that I could have to really fight for. Those are the kinds of things that I do. And when I started to reflect on how long I've been on this journey, like hard charging, I really have not stopped. 2014, running for Secretary of State, then a baby got shot. Little boy, Tamir Rice, was shot in November on a playground of 2014, just shook me to my core. I was able to work with our Republican governor, just to make a long story less long, to create a task force on community and police relations where that Governor John Kasich, made me a co-chair. Now, we fought like 99.9% of the time, but he knew, as I knew, that in that moment, this wasn't about who's Democrat and Republican. This is about who's going to stand up and hear the pain of the people and address their pain by pushing some change. And for the first time in Ohio's history, we have standards for law enforcement agencies. Now, there's a need to build on that, but that's one example, Jordan, of what I am willing to do. Again, not just on the floor of the Senate, but in my respective communities, going to the governor in that way, building a solidarity with other, two other African-American women who were in the legislature at that time. I could have threw my hands up and said, you know what, I only got about a month and a half left on my Senate term. I didn't win my state office. Let me just sit on down. No, I don't do that because I feel deeply for people who are suffering. And whether it's socially, politically, economically, environmentally, I am going to be there to be a bridge, to be a fighter, whatever it means. Sometimes you got to be an ally. Sometimes you have to be a co-conspirator. And another point to what we were able to do in that really tense moment in Ohio, Samaria Rice, the mother of Tamir Rice, God only knows. I can't even pretend to put myself in her shoes. But what I do know is a Black mother in America. That is what motivated me to reach out to the governor. It wasn't about politics. It was saying, you got power, governor, and I have power. How about we use that power together for a change and to travel this state and listen to people? So, George, I've been on the battlefield for a very long time for things that, both germane to my state and also germane to the nation. And I know that if I am blessed to become a congresswoman in this state, in this country, it is not just about my district. The decisions that I make will have an impact on the country and also on the world. And that is not lost on me. And I also know, because of my position in this movement too, that has been, people are sad in this movement, for a lot of reasons. I get it. Demoralized was the word I was looking for. And I get that too. And I'm not saying that I am the only one that can answer to that demoralization. But what I do want this movement to know is that I love it and I respect it. And even though we're rough and tumble movement, we're still very young. We are the only movement that is fighting to make people's lives better through healthcare, through a Green New Deal, through canceling student debt, through fighting for a living wage. There is no other movement in the 21st century that is doing that. We are doing that. And in that, we should be proud, even if we have family fights from time to time.
And two quick questions, because you're less than 2 weeks now. A lot of people might not realize this is a different district now, and kind of more favorable to you. Could you kind of talk about with the lines being redrawn, and we don't need to get into Ohio's racist gerrymandering efforts that were declared unconstitutional, but you now have some better territory in terms of young people, an area Bernie Sanders won in 2016. Can you kind of go through that?
Yeah, and you needed to say that, Jordan, because we got to call out these Republicans. They're doing it all over the country, but I swear to God, Ohio must be the worst. We're going to have two primaries in this state, and the second one is going to cost the taxpayers of this state $20 million. Can you imagine what the legislature could have done with $20 million? Maybe give a reprieve on these gas prices. But oh no, these fiscally conservative folks certainly are not showing fiscal conservatism in this moment. Anyway, I digress because that just burns my behind, actually. Yes, new district, new time, new people. 30% of this district will be new. All of the city of Cleveland is in this district. I won the portions of the city of Cleveland that was in the district during the special election by 10 points. We are working extraordinarily hard. I expect to win the city of Cleveland again. And as you noted, the city of Lakewood is now in the district, and Senator Sanders won Lakewood in 2016. And he actually won Lakewood, even though our race was over by then, in 2020. So Lakewood is ripe with progressives. And I've also won the endorsement of several leaders that represented that area, two of them being Councilman Tristan Rader and also Representative Michael Skindell, and we served in the Senate together. So he was senator then. That says a lot about them, Jordan, because there's a penalty, as you know, for not endorsing the incumbent in the race in this state. And I'm sure that penalty is pretty much the same all over, where you're penalized for doing the right thing. But I want to shout them out for doing the right thing. And then Congresswoman Mary Rose Okar, who actually served in the newer portions of the district that are now there in the district now, was her district when she was in Congress, and also the Lakewood community. And I'm really honored to have her support as well. She's one of our elders in this community, and she has endorsed me too. So yeah, it's for, and college students too, Jordan. We didn't have college students in August, but we definitely have the opportunity to win them over. We have a college organizer dedicated to the college campuses. That plus my field team has really enabled us to make those 100,000 touches that we have made so far.
Thank you, former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner. I'll see you a couple days before the primary. I'll be there covering it for Status Coup. So thank you very much.
Looking forward to having you back, Jordan. People can go to ninaturner.com if they want to get involved. Less than 2 weeks. I need their help. Time, talent, and treasure. ninaturner.com.
And by the way, I'm not a fundraiser for Nina's campaign, but I will say, you didn't have as many months this time to fundraise, and Shontel Brown's certainly going to have the money down the road. So
yeah, those dark money and super PACs came barreling in here like the last time. So, oh yeah.
Okay. ninaturner.com.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern time.